Good afternoon and welcome to ECEPTS June Deep Dive, ECEPTS Youth Apprenticeships Earn and Learn Pathways to Building the Future of ECE Workforce. We know that our future workforce is in today's classroom, so I'm really excited for our partners at Oakland Unified School District to share some of the work that they've been doing in their community. My name is Chanel Brumfield, and I am one of several ECEPTS Registered Apprenticeship Program Director supporting the development of early care and education apprenticeships across the state. We're happy that you've joined us to learn more about youth apprenticeships. To date, ECEPTS has offered youth apprenticeships across California in multiple counties such as Alameda, Los Angeles, Contra Costa, and San Joaquin, and we continue to grow. Now, our youth apprenticeship programs are high school-based programming. Now, we know that there is a broad definition of youth in our country, but specifically, we're talking about high school-based programs. So that's that 16 to 18 age range. Our youth apprenticeships target 11th and 12th grade high school students. And through our youth apprenticeship programs, participants not only gain degree applicable college credits, they also gain real hands-on job experiences in ECE and additional research-based program supports that address barriers to success and center the needs of the participants. Today, ECEPTS is joined by the small but mighty team at Oakland Unified School District, who has been doing some great work with the youth in the Oakland community. Before I pass it over to Cecilia and Jared, I wanted to share a note that we'll have time for Q&A later in the presentation. However, if questions arise or aha moments that you hear throughout the presentation, we want you to feel free to utilize the chat to pop in your questions. My colleague Daryl Bright and I will both be monitoring the chat and addressing any questions that may arise, but we will have time towards the end of the presentation today to have a robust discussion. So without further ado, I want to thank you all for joining us, and I will now pass it to the OUSD team. Cecilia.
Thank you so much, Chanel. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I am Cecilia Terrazas, one of the coordinators of diversity inclusion here at Oakland Unified School District. My role is really one supporting the implementation and creation of our apprenticeship programs, but also specifically around recruitment and retention of Brown and Black staff. Jared?
Thanks, Cecilia. I'm Jared Austin Thomas. I am the other coordinator of diversity and inclusion on the recruitment and retention team at Oakland Unified School District, also supporting with all of our apprenticeship work, and really grateful to be in this space to learn with you and from you all, and grateful for ECEPTS and their really close partnership and supporting us with being able to get to this place where we're able to talk about our youth apprenticeship program.
Yeah, absolutely. We've come a long way from knowing absolutely nothing to now launching this program, and it really has been with the support of ECEPTS and Berkeley City College, has really helped us to get where we are today. So we're happy and excited to talk with you all and definitely share our learnings and talk a little bit about our programs, but all the understanding we are still growing and learning ourselves. Before we do that, we always like to start with a community connection. And the question we have for you, so we're going to put you in groups of 4. It'll automatically put you into a breakout room. You'll have about 6 minutes to kind of just chat and talk with each other. And the question is, when was the first time you had a brown or black teacher in your educational history? And then when we come back, we'll share a couple of those, or you can put them in the chat. Okay, great. We can go out to breakout groups, please. There we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. All right, I think we're all back now. Would a couple people like to share their experiences, either in the chat or if you want to come off mute, that would be fabulous. Oh, there's the timer. High school. Have somebody here says high school. More high school, and then my 6th grade science teacher. Chemistry, kindergarten, and then not again till middle school. My 6th grade math teacher. Third grade teacher, middle school. Third grade. So some people a little bit younger. And then Yolanda, I grew up in West Oakland. I've had Black and brown teachers throughout, starting with preschool. Yeah, there are certain places in Oakland that is true. When we ask students, they say the same. Same in high school, and my partner was in 3rd grade. Yeah, so it really varies kind of depending on where folks are at. And oftentimes, though, for most folks, we hear later in life, which is same is true for me. I didn't have a Latino teacher until I was in 11th grade, and that was my Spanish teacher. And I had my first Black teacher in 10th grade. And so, yeah, it wasn't a big experience that I had. And someone said, honestly, never committed this to memory and wasn't sure, but in college for sure. Yeah. And so we find that even though I think in a lot of ways, you know, there are spaces in Oakland where students have more experience in having brown and Black teachers, it's still not as prevalent as we want it to be. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but we like to ask this question because it really is kind of at the heart of our work. How do we create more parity in our schools? And so that way students see more people who look like them. And all the research tells us more than just I know in my heart, but the research tells us that this is extremely important to the benefit of all students, and in particular, brown and Black students. Jarrett?
Thanks. Thanks, Cecilia. So yeah, we're definitely gonna sort of jump back into talking about the importance for us around having our students represented in their teaching staff. Before we do that, I wanted to figure out who's in the room, what people are interested in learning about. And so if you don't mind either going to slido.com and then using this access code 4114081, or you can scan this QR code. You should see this question here. What type of organization do you work with? And so I saw somebody was just, oh, there we go. All right, so we got state government, K-12. Community organizations, apprenticeship intermediaries, post-secondary higher education, federal government, philanthropy. This is awesome. This is a really good mix of people and perspectives. And so excited to hear people share and input as we progress. It's great. We'll have a lot of expertise that I don't hold personally in this space. So yeah, please feel free to continue. Feel free to participate, ask questions as you go along. The community organization state, K-12. All right. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next question because it looks like participation is waning on that. So the next question is, what would you like to hear most about? So we can help sort of tailor our conversation and what we spend the most time on in our presentation. Are you interested in hearing about recruiting students, support structures, funding sources, course sequence, incorporating families, use of funding, coursework, and RSI partnership? And so that question is mostly RSI partnership, but I wasn't sure sort of like where people are in their like apprenticeship journey, and wanted to provide coursework as like that's the relationship between um the program and the educational body. And so people are looking for support structures, recruiting students, funding sources, partnership. All right, and a little bit of sequence and use of funding. Okay, cool. Thank you all. And then as Chanel said, any questions? That was the last question, but any questions that come up for you, feel free to just put them in the chat as we go along. Thank you all for engaging in that. Feel free to put them in the chat as we go along. I'm going to actually put the first question back up again in case anybody didn't have a chance to say what organization they work for and wanted to add to it. Feel free to jump back into, you can scan this code. You can go to slido.com and use this number, but it's just helpful for us to get a sense of like who's in the room. So going back to our importance on students seeing themselves in the classroom. Our program was really designed for juniors and seniors to be able to explore education and community serving professions while earning college credit and participating in paid work experience. And the mission of this program really aligns with the district's mission, which I put like part of the district mission, part of the vision, and part of the strategic plan here, just to show sort of how well it aligns, and just like the goal of like eliminating inequity and providing each child with excellent teachers. We really see this as, or let me read through the whole thing, prepared for a college career and community success, and then diversifying the educator workforce in service of stable and racially diverse workforce with a focus on Black and Brown excellence. And so these two graphs are our student demographic at the top and our teacher demographics at the bottom. And so you can see that we have a large number of students that identify as Latino, and our teaching demographics do not match that. Our students that identify as African American and our teachers that identify as African American do live in that parity. But there's clearly a lot of work to be done around supporting our Latino students and staff, as well as the retention of our Black and African American staff. And so as you can see, this disparity exists, and what we know is that if we are looking to find people that match our students ethnically, those are the students, right? We go to the students who are those people, and we try to encourage them and support them with thinking about entering the field. As we know, there's a lot of just like institutional racism that exists and barriers that exist for people of color, brown and Black specifically, with entering into the educational workforce. And so this apprenticeship is really an opportunity for them to really get to see and explore the field of education before having to make that financial commitment to the field that a lot of people, including myself, had to face in making this decision. And so the program began in the fall of 2023 with a lot of support from ECEPTS and Berkeley City College. We began recruiting students in the spring of 2023. And so it was really kind of like a short on-ramp into this world of apprenticeship. And so with that, with Berkeley City College, they have a school readiness certificate that is a course sequence that students complete with an associate teacher permit, which is one of the levels of permitting in California for ECE. We also wanted the participants to be eligible for paraeducator roles in Oakland Unified, as well as other ECE roles, opportunities to work in our expanded in one of our expanded learning partnerships, or as early literacy tutors, which are also working from ages 0 to 8 years old. And so those are all positions that students are eligible for upon graduation of high school. And then we would also be supporting them with entering adult apprentices that exist in our community with Girls Inc. And with Oakland Unified upon completion. So this program specifically is 4 3-unit courses, as well as 2 summers of paid work experience. The this year or this past year, 23-24, we had 20 youth apprentices that represented 7 schools in the district. They were completing in 2 tiers because we had juniors and seniors. And so the people that entered as seniors, they received 6 college units, which made them eligible for the assistant permit. And the people who entered as juniors have the opportunity to earn 12 units over the course of the next 2 years, which will get them that school readiness certificate and eligibility for the associate teacher permit. Gonna pass over to Cecilia for this.
So we have had a lot of learning in our program, and one of them, so currently, as we had it this year in our inaugural program, we had the program after school. And what we found is that while we have a robust dual enrollment program within Oakland Unified School District, so students are used to taking college classes within their school day, adding another program after school added an additional class. And so we found it challenging, where we really liked the combination of, we had students from all over the district. We have over 80 schools in our district. It was really nice to kind of have kids come together in one place, but the difficulty kind of became, and sometimes insurmountable, having to travel or just even providing supports to that many sites. So next year, what we're doing is we're really focusing on 3 particular high schools. With one of the schools, Skyline High School, actually has an education career pathway. And then the other 2 schools are schools that have a high percentage of brown and black staff in our high need population in Oakland. And so we're really integrating this class into the school day. So for example, at MPA Madison Park Academy, the class will be during first period. And on the days the professor is not there, there will be a teacher staffing the class so that way they can work on homework, they can get tutoring, they can get whatever support they need. And it's built within the school day. So having to eliminate the travel and the back and forth, as well as increase supports that are more accessible because they're at their site. One of the things that you guys asked for was recruiting. How do we recruit young people? So next year we will have 3 sites, and we'll have 60 youth. So it'll go from 20 to 60 young people. And a big piece of that is, one of the things that we do is we really go and push into the sites. Sometimes we'll do workshops that are around like the need for brown and black staff. We'll ask the same question we ask you. We ask, how many people want to be teachers? And then we hear crickets, right? No one wants to be teachers. They don't think so, right? And then we ask them, how many people want to work with children, youth, or families? And then we start getting people who are interested. So we really frame it not as a teacher program, but more as a program that really helps young people explore careers, and really to support young people kind of try out new things, in particular working with children, youth, and families. And so from that, we've really gotten a lot of interest. I think the other big piece is we pay them a stipend for program completion. I think that's like, as soon as I start saying that, then they're like, oh, you're going to pay me to take a college class and you're going to give me all these supports? Absolutely. And so then people are really, young people are a lot more interested immediately into finding out more about the program and then trying it out. And in that way, what we've seen in the last year is then like young people are now like, oh, wow, this is something I didn't know I was interested in. Oh, this is something I didn't know I was good at. And so we kind of have started in there. So we've done a lot of presentations, really outreaching at all the different schools and all of the classrooms, just kind of pushing in, as well as going to some of the fairs. But I think the biggest piece is that we really incentivize paying young people as a way to kind of like, I'm paying you for your time. And a lot of our young people may need jobs and may need additional financial support. And so this really supports that. So eligibility to be in the program is a rising 11th or 12th grader, and then they're able to commit to college classes on their own campus, right? Both fall and spring and summer. I'm sorry, both fall and spring semester, and then they'll have a summer internship. Participant support. So this is a huge piece of the work that we're doing. We're working with young people who there's a lot of barriers to success, and so our supports are really important. The program is designed for students. I talked about the course completion stipends. Also that there's an OUSD teacher in class with students. So we have a Berkeley City professor, we have a teacher, a credentialed teacher, and we have the tutor. Part of the support that we offer is really working with the professor to really kind of figure out where are the students that are needing extra support. Sometimes we help with like scaffolding and making sure that instruction is accessible to all of our students. So it's really coordinating in partnership with the Berkeley City professor and meeting regularly to not only talk about teaching methods, but to also talk about what students need extra support. And then from there, really pushing in and supporting students as needed. We found that students need a lot of tutoring, a lot of support, a lot of push and pull and problem solving. The other component that we have is the success coordinator. So Jared and I do success coordination. And through that, we're able to figure out if students have needs that are not academic, that maybe their social emotional needs, maybe there's a death in the family, maybe there's food insecurity, that it is our role to connect them to our sites who can really support them. Oakland Unified is a community schools. We have a community school model. And so the whole idea behind that model is we provide wraparound services at each of our sites. And so what Jared and I try to do is we meet with young people individually. Obviously, building relationships is key. I should have said that first, to have relationships with every single young human here. And then at that point, if we're hearing that they need extra supports, we connect them to the resources at their sites. We also cover transportation, we cover books, we give them computers. Yeah, we try to provide as much services as we can. Here was during spring break. We were at the library trying to work on our final. We have back-end access to Canva, which is the website that many professors use in Berkeley City College. And so we're able to look at kind of progression of students and then kind of provide in conjunction with the professor supports and interventions along the way. So again, just a quick overview of our current program and the college classes is one dual enrollment college class per semester. Dual enrollment meaning they're enrolled in high school and college classes simultaneously. It's free. They get a cash stipend for each course completed, starting at $300 and increasing by $200 per course. And then they will have a paid summer internship opportunity this summer. They'll get, or the first summer they'll get $1,000. The second summer will increase it. The idea is to kind of like, how do we encourage longevity and retention in the program while also trying to make sure that young people have funds to continue being able to do an internship versus finding a job. The college classes they take, the order kind of just depends on who's, we're looking for a professor that works well with young people. We're looking primarily for professors that reflect the diversity of our young people as well. But these are the classes that they take: child growth and development, sociology of the family, children's literature, and introduction into the field of education.
And so we talked a little bit about this already, but just sort of like an overview. Upon completion of the program, participants will graduate high school with 6 to 12 units, at least 6 to 12 units. Over the summer, they're also taking a work study or internship class that will give them additional units based on the number of hours that they're in their summer placement for. And that's will give them a boost to their GPA as well for their high school transcript. They're earning cash throughout the program through course completion and their summer internships. They'll finish, students that are able to do 2 years will finish with an associate teacher permit. Students that do 1 year will finish with an assistant permit, making them eligible to be hired in Oakland Unified, as well as in YMCA and Head Start and other organizations. They will also be eligible for other USD positions that will allow them to work full-time with a salary and benefits, and participate in local apprenticeships, including the adult apprenticeship that we hold in Oakland Unified, as well as the ones that our community partners hold, including Girls Inc., where they'll be able to get an associate's degree or very close to an associate's degree through those programs.
One thing I want to add that I didn't just talk about when we talked about our course sequence, we really were hesitant to try to funnel students or pigeonhole students into like child development only courses, right? Because then not all of them are transferable. So Berkeley City College is really amazing that they've been able to kind of create parallels with some of the classes. So like sociology is one of the classes, education is one of the classes. And so the classes really are all transferable and really embrace more like liberal arts kind of background. And so students don't have to, like, if they decide they don't like it at the end of the day, we still want them to be able to take their units and transfer them to wherever it is they want to. And so that's been a really an important piece for us as well.
And so I think like the third highest thing that people wanted to know about was like funding and the source of funding. And so a lot of support for that came from ECEPTS in terms of like how we fund this program. And so we listed a couple of the funding sources that we use. So the California Apprenticeship Initiative was really sort of the first funding source that kind of kicked this off for us. And through that, we had a lot of support from ECEPTS with the application and just like understanding the language and the terminology that exists in the world of apprenticeships and being able to put that together for submission. Another state grant for those in California who are interested in funding pre-apprenticeships is the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeship. We're utilizing that for our adult apprenticeship because the requirements on their pre-apprenticeship don't align with what we're already doing, but they do also fund pre-apprenticeships through what's acronymed as COIA. We also receive funding through our First Five, Alameda First Five organization. And then we receive funding from PAYA, New America's Partnership to Advance Youth Apprenticeships, and the Heising Simons Foundation. And then we put ECEPTS on there again because we would really not be here if it wasn't for ECEPTS and the support that we've received from them. And some of the like really important things that we have been learning as we've been going through is like the importance of braiding funding. There are a lot of costs as you're holistically supporting people through education and the barriers that exist with becoming an educator and the education that it takes for that. And so utilizing multiple funding sources is extremely important to be able to make sure that people have access to what they need to be successful. Um, we also, as a K-12 LEA, are experiencing the challenges of just like bureaucracy and working with a number of inputs. And so our board approval ended up taking a really long time. And so we had to utilize some other funding while we were waiting for the board to approve the funding that was specifically for this program. And so just like recognizing that getting everybody in the organization on the same page is really important in terms of being able to achieve goals, particularly around accessing funds for programs. One other aspect that we haven't really been able to dive too deep into, but we know is super important is just the relationship with your workforce board. As we are working further into apprenticeships and seeing some of the funding streams that are opening up, a lot of that is through partnerships with the workforce board. And so knowing who to contact there is really helpful, and identifying how they can support you is really important. Um, right now, we are talking a lot about like the funding for coursework in California. The Ed Code says that apprentices don't have to pay for classes, but there isn't yet a unified system for doing that. And so we are utilizing some of our funding to cover those courses while also working really closely with Berkeley City College and Merritt College and identifying how our apprentices are going to be coded so that they're not charged fees and provided other barriers to their participation. And then the last thing that we have here is working closely with those partners. So working with Berkeley City College and Merritt as we are applying for grants and working together to create a budget and identifying what needs are so that we can make sure that those are all met through the budgets that were created.
And I see there's questions in the chat, so we'll get to those in a little bit. So some of the lessons that we've learned over this last year, a lot, immense, more than I can put on one slide. But importantly is about growing our own faculty, making sure that we have engaged, reflective, and diverse faculty. Again, talked about it a little bit, but just really that represents the cultures of our students. And then with that, really having culture responsive curriculum that really kind of engages our young people and really centers their experience. Again, in total in our district, it's like over 70% of our students are brown and Black, and some of our schools are like 90%. And so really kind of needing to center that. I talked about just after school and the transportation, so I won't talk more about that, but just I think that leads to just ensuring that there's like access for students, not only of the curriculum, but of just the basics of the class as well, and really kind of building a program with students' needs at the center. We also found that one-on-one support was extremely important with close case management. And so really needing to know each young person really deeply was really important. And to know when they're struggling, young people needed lots of encouragement and love along the way. Young people were easy to, want to give up or feel like, oh, I missed a couple classes, I can't do anything anymore. But the professors were fabulous, really teaching, getting young people to trust their professors and really work with them. It was all a process. For some of our young people, they'd never taken a college course in their life. And so that turned out to be a really big piece of the work, was really supporting young people. Embedded tutoring and support, so really just having in the class people who are supporting youth with like, even what's your Peralta password or how do I get to this website? You know, our young people are very technologically advanced, but not necessarily in the like professional academic world. You know, that it is a skill set that we were having to work with them around. Ensuring class time is spent studying, reviewing study skills and how to be best students in college. So this is similar, like teaching them how to use the platform, teaching them how to email their professor, just communication, all the different things and such. The other thing that we found was a challenge was you need FERPA agreements for students, so that way you could have interinstitutional data sharing. So we work with Berkeley City College already, so we had that, but we didn't have that with ECEPTS as well. And so in your apprenticeship programs, they can sign their own paperwork because they're 18 years old, but with ours, they're under 18, so we need to get permission from their parents. And so it just takes a lot more steps and really thinking about trying to getting the paperwork signed. And I think this had to do with even like eventually once they got we're moving to get to apply for their permits. Now they need to be fingerprinted. And so with that came, wait, who doesn't have an ID? Who doesn't have a driver's license? So there's a lot of adulting that's going on, which I think is fabulous. It's not a bad thing, but it's just a lesson learned that you're like, oh, wow, all these other pieces that really we hadn't prepared for. And then the last lesson is we have 0 young male identified candidates in the program as of today. However, I did say we were prioritizing that in our last outreach, and I got 8 young men to apply. So, you know, hopefully that we're going to change that. But as of right now, we didn't have any. Wins and celebrations. I mean, we just had values alignment. I think that really helped. Like our values alignment with ECEPTS was dead on. And I think that really helped us. And in terms of working with Berkeley City, the same. And so I think working with partners that really have the same values is extremely important. And whenever there's any bumps in the road, it's a lot more easier to get through because you all have the same kind of guiding star. The other piece is that this work aligned with our community college chancellor's office vision and their strategic plan, as well as the strategic plan of Oakland Unified School District. Our superintendent was on board and really super excited and proud of our work. So really just getting like top leadership in, including the dean, right? The dean of Berkeley City College has been extremely fundamental as well and really supporting this work. And then we meet regularly with staff at Berkeley City College as well as ECEPTS as we've been like designing and learning and implementing the program. Let's see, I want to leave time for questions and answers. I'll get through. I think the last thing is just like students love swag. So any swag you have, that's they're able to outreach for you. And then that just makes them super happy. And then our ultimate wins are, we have 9 graduating seniors. We're so excited. We just did our first graduation with the YMCA and Girls Inc. and Berkeley City College. So that was fabulous. And then 20 students will receive their instructional assistant permits. Preguntas.
Thanks, Cecilia and Jarrett. I've been monitoring the chat, and there are 2 questions that I wanted to lift up for you both to answer. So the first one is, how much is the stipend they received? And are there additional barrier reduction incentives that you found useful for successful completion?
So students receive $300 received $300 for the first course, completing the first course. And then it increases $200 per course as like a retention incentive. So in the fall, they got 300, in the spring, they got 500, and then it'll continue that way for the other 2 classes. And then the other question was about barrier reduction incentives. So the technology, I think, was something that was super helpful. Being able to have access to laptops was really beneficial for students. Just in being able to navigate Canvas, being able to upload projects. So I would say that that was really big. Cecilia was transportation for a number of students. She would pick them up from school and bring them to where our campus was, where the class was taking place weekly. And that was a huge barrier for a number of students. And so another reason why we ended up embedding it at sites, but something that was necessary for us to do in order for students to be able to participate. Um, was there anything else that you could think of, Cecilia?
I was just also thinking about like, so the fingerprinting, for example, having somebody come to our class was one of the things that I think helped a lot. So really, and then we paid for it, so they didn't have to pay anything. For those students that are having to get an ID, like I'm just gonna, like this is adulting, so now I'm gonna take them. And then we're gonna pay for it as well. So really trying to pay for things. That we can, that are difficult for young people to pay for themselves or their families. I think the other thing that we didn't talk a lot about, but it just has me thinking of, is parent involvement. We involve parents. And so I know the colleges were like, oh, we can't call parents. Well, we can. And so we did, and we involve parents a lot in really whether it's like, was about tutoring, was about their kids being successful, or it was about, their kids not being successful and really needing their parents to partner with us to really make sure they were either showing up for tutoring or getting things done, or we were just momming them all the time. And that was free.
And the support with like applications. So we worked with them on their Peralta applications and logging back into Peralta in the spring and making sure that they had access to all of those as well.
All right, and in the same similar vein, was the payment of courses contingent on the passing of the class, and what funding source did you utilize to help support the payment of stipends?
Yeah, the payment was tied to them passing the class, and that was something that we talked about with them beforehand, so they were all aware. And we utilized Heising Simon's funding to cover that payment.
Awesome. Oh, some really great questions. So is the associate teacher permit a credential unique to your district or area, and who issues that credential?
That credential is California, so it comes through the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We as a district actually don't utilize it in the sense that we hire associate teachers. But it's one of the steps within like our sort of continuum in early care and education. So with that, they can be instructional assistants, and then they can earn more units to be teachers in the classroom. So students that finish with this associate teacher can join our adult apprenticeship and earn their master teacher permit.
All right, and I see a question about data tracking. And I think that question is from Maria. And Maria, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Are you referring to how Oakland is like tracking their pre-apprentices, like their demographic data, or any pre-apprenticeship data?
Actually, I think I'm I'm a little confused because I have to switch hats from apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, and I have to remind myself this is pre-apprenticeship, so there isn't any data you need to track, correct?
So we definitely track demographics, and I saw that question in the chat. We work with ECEPTS on reporting. So there's obviously we're reporting to like funders, and so there's information that we're tracking for that. ECEPTS has moved to Build Within, so we're utilizing that. And then we use a lot of spreadsheets, Google Docs, to track, do a lot of the tracking for like what we're doing with students and our outreach, Google Forms as well. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. Can you repeat? You said you use what with ECEPS?
Build
I was-
Within.
Jared, I was going to suggest Barbara jump in for just a minute if she's
Yeah,
on.
sure, yeah. So we use an apprenticeship management system called Build Within, and that keeps track of all the information that we're required by the state of California to collect on pre-apprentices and youth apprentices. And so it's the identifying information that's required by the Division of Apprenticeship Standards in their CAS forms. And those, of course, before we collect all of that, we have to have, the permission from the adults, the parents, to collect this information. So we work closely with OUSD to ensure that we have that. Other than that, we want to make sure that we eventually collect their grade reports and things like that. So I think that pretty much summarizes it for the youth.
I'm sorry, do you mind to repeat what data management system you said you used?
Yeah, we could type it in the chat box also.
Perfect.
It is called Build Within. And any of the programs that ECEPT supports, we collect this data through this repository, and it keeps track from, apprentice, pre-apprentice, youth apprentice, all the way to the apprenticeship programs. And I put it in the chat box.
And I would just add, anybody who wants to know more about what we've built with the Build Within platform, feel free to contact us and we can arrange, a 30-minute call and we can really show it to you. Because part of what we're hoping is that other ECE apprenticeship programs in California and around the country will adopt the same data platform. First of all, because it's specifically designed for ECE apprenticeships that are registered with the DOL. And in the case of California, also registered with the DAS, but also because it will enable ECE apprenticeships across the country to actually be able to share data and, talk, the system will be able to talk to each other. I will put in the chat box our general email address. So feel free to reach out if you're interested.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then one more question before we close out. Does the pre-apprenticeship articulate to a full registered apprenticeship?
So our our pre-apprenticeship apprentices can, if they are so interested, and we're really encouraging that. We have program partners locally, such as Jarrett talked about, Girls Inc. or the YMCA, or if they're employed with us, we're also launching one in the fall. That is for our current staff who work with children from 0 to 8 to enter into an apprenticeship program, and then they will, by our next cohort, they will have come in with their associate teacher permit. So that is the hope. Our hope is like we're building it from the very beginning, from high school, and really creating a full pipeline all the way through people. Our young people getting teaching credentials to also administrative services credentials. And so we're really like, how do we really grow our own from beginning to end? And I was going to put our email as well here. If you have questions or you want to email to us, I realized we didn't put it, so I'll put it in the chat.
Great. So I think those were all of the questions. We are at time, but thank you, Cecilia and Jarrett, for sharing your lessons learned and the great work that you've been doing with the youth in Oakland. And thank you all for some really good discussion questions. And thank you for your participation today. This webinar was recorded, so we will be sending out a follow-up communication with this recording. Feel free to share with your colleagues. But thank you all for joining us today, and stay safe, stay in community, and talk soon.